The Utah Jazz moved on from Rudy Gobert this offseason in one of the biggest trades over the last couple of years, as they got 5 first-round picks in return from him, unprotected I should add. So officially, the Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert era is over. And with Gobert gone, the future of the Utah Jazz and Donovan Mitchell is truly a question mark going forward. And as you can see from the title, we're going to talk about what is next for D Mitch and the Utah Jazz. But before we go any further, make sure you drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and press that bell for post notifications. We on the road to 80,000 subscribers, so make sure you join the gang.
I don't know, sir. I don't know. It's the same shit. I don't know, sir. I don't know. It's the same shit. I don't know. I mean, yeah, it feels the same way. It's the same thing. It's just literally the same thing. And yeah, I had 6 turnovers. Turned the ball over too much. We didn't get back on defense. Didn't rebound. I don't know, sir.
When D Mitch came to Utah, everybody thought he was the savior that city needed. They had just lost their all-star in Gordon Hayward, a fan favorite at the time, and most people thought the Jazz were going to fall out of the playoff hunt and become a lottery team. But thanks to D Mitch having one of the better rookie seasons that we've seen over the last 20 years, he helped lead the Utah Jazz to a 50-win season and an upset victory over the Oklahoma City Thunder, which led them past the first round. And though he didn't win Rookie of the Year, which was seen as a pretty controversial decision at the time, he was still looked at as one of the hottest young players in the NBA. And right beside him was his crime-fighting partner, who was not a force offensively but was a force defensively, in Rudy Gobert. Gobert was able to establish himself as one of the better defensive players of all time, winning 3 Defensive Player of the Year awards within a 4-year window. And alongside D Mitch, the Utah Jazz were a solidified playoff team every single year, winning at least 50+ games, being a top seed in the Western Conference, and with additions like Mike Conley, Bojan Bogdanovic, and Jordan Clarkson, they improved offensively to being one of the better teams, not only defensively because of Gobert's impact, but offensively as well due to their firepower on the perimeter. But unfortunately, the Utah Jazz have this reputation of being good but never being great. And I don't have to waste time talking about it because everybody that's watching, you all know. We saw Terrence Mann drop 40 on them in a Game 6 without no Kawhi Leonard. We saw Jamal Murray dropping 50 pieces with Jokic cooking Rudy Gobert in the bubble as they blew a 3-1 lead to the Nuggets. And we just saw them this year go down 2-1 to the Dallas Mavericks because they couldn't stop Jalen Brunson from dropping 30 and 40 on them. This team, despite their heights in the regular season, in the playoffs they consistently get exposed because they over-rely on 3-point shooting while their perimeter players don't play a lick of defense, and Rudy Gobert has to do everything on that side of the ball. And you know you're just running the motions with no real leadership when Rudy Gobert takes all the blame in the media, from fans, from former ex-players like Shaq who just shit on him all the time, when everybody with functioning eyeballs and a brain that works to its full capacity can understand that he is not the sole problem. Of course he has his faults. He is not the greatest offensive player as far as his own shot creation ability. I mean, hell, I cringe when they just give him the ball in the post and he tries to create his own shot. He looks like he has 2 left feet for real. But let's not act like D Mitch doesn't have his own blame. Hell, just look at what happened these past playoffs against the Mavericks. Not only did D Mitch shoot below 40% from the field and below 30% from 3, but the team also played better with him off the court versus when he was on the court, as the Jazz had an offensive rating of 107.7 when he was on the court and a 117.5 when he was off the court against the Mavericks. And don't even get me started on the defensive side of the ball, because D Mitch has all the tools to be one of the better defenders in the NBA, not just at his position but in the league. I mean, I get the fact that he's undersized, being 6'1" at the 2 guard, but he has a 6'10" wingspan and has some lateral quickness on him when he tries. But that's just it. He doesn't try. Him, just like most of the other perimeter guys on that team, they're just walking blow-bys for Rudy Gobert to have to help off his man to defend. And I truly don't understand it, because he has all the tools to be a great defender. When he was on the court, they had a 116.9 defensive rating. And when D Mitch was off the court, fact, they had a 109.4 defensive rating. It truly is incredible how bad he is defensively, but people will watch these games and only blame Gobert for their defensive problems. But now the duo is over. It was a nice run while it lasted, but all good things must come to an end. And with Gobert now in Minnesota, the Jazz with 5 first-round picks in exchange and a bunch of other role players, I truly am puzzled why D. Mitch has not requested his trade yet, because let's be real, they're not doing shit with that roster. I'm sure they are waiting to see what happens with the KD situation in Brooklyn, and that's understandable, but based off of all the reports that we have so far, it looks like the Jazz are going to actually rebuild with Donovan Mitchell on the team. And let's just be honest, I don't know what the hell they are smoking, but they need to pass me that blunt for real. You've already lost Quinn Snyder, your head coach. You've traded Rudy Gobert, and now Hassan Whiteside is your replacement. Your second best player is Bojan Bogdanovic, and by the way, let's not forget you're paying Mike Conley over $20 million this upcoming season and the year after. So I think it's pretty obvious to trade Donovan Mitchell now, because it's better to trade early than too late. Now, where D. Mitch is going to be traded to, that's a pretty interesting convo. The teams that come to mind for most people are the Miami Heat and the New York Knicks. For starters, let's just get the Knicks out of the way. They are a horrible run organization that will forever be sorry due to James Dolan's negligence. They are a non-playoff team that passed up a lottery pick that they could have drafted Jalen Duren with, or even AJ Griffin, but decided to then trade the pick so they could free up cap space to sign Jalen Brunson to a $110 million contract. They are the definition of unserious. But let's talk about some serious organizations. That brings me to the Miami Heat acquiring Donovan Mitchell. Now, I would love to see D. Mitch team up with Jimmy Butler in Miami. I think they would be a perfect duo and could actually compete for a championship. It's clear that Bam Adebayo as a scorer, it's just not working out, and he needs a number 1 and number 2 option ahead of him. And though D. Mitch has his defensive lapses, I don't think you're ever going to have a bad defense when you have Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler on your team. But the problem that I see with the Miami Heat is that their package is pretty weak to get Donovan Mitchell. I'm sorry, but the Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson package, along with a couple of picks including Nikola Jovic, that's just not moving me. And it shouldn't move the Utah Jazz either. Tyler Hero is not that guy. He has folded in the last 2 playoffs and become unplayable at certain points due to his defense. And the same thing applies to Duncan Robinson tenfold, because his defense is in the bottom 5 of the NBA and all he does is shoot. I mean, it's nice to have your specialist, but not at that cost, especially when you're not even going to play in the playoffs. And even if you throw in a couple of first-round picks, it's just not moving me. So as far as the Heat are concerned, I think they could get a third team involved, and maybe I could see D. Mitch going to that team, but doing a straight-up deal between those 2 teams, I don't see a realistic package that they could throw at the Utah Jazz that they are going to accept. But the one trade that I would like to see happen, even though more than likely it's not going to happen because it's too perfect, your boy Mustard is just that smart, is a trade between the Utah Jazz and the Cleveland Cavaliers surrounding Donovan Mitchell in exchange for Karis LeVert, Lauri Markkanen, Colin Sexton, and 2 future first-round picks. The contracts may be a little off, so that's why Rudy Gay is there, and I truly think this is a beneficial trade for both sides. For starters, I like Colin Sexton, but I just don't think he fits well with Darius Garland on this team. He's not that great of a playmaker. Defensively, his impact is very minimal, and as an offensive player, I truly just don't think he meshes well with Garland. D. Mitch doesn't have to be the number 1 playmaker on the team. That's why you have Darius Garland. They can both play off the ball, and defensively, you still have Okoro, you still have Jared Allen, and you also got Evan Mobley. The Twin Towers are right there. And I think on a team like the Cavaliers that has a primary playmaker and ball handler in Darius Garland, that's less of an offensive responsibility for Donovan Mitchell. And with less of an offensive responsibility, I assume there's going to be more defensive effort. And for the Jazz side of things, Colin Sexton is a nice young scorer. You don't even have to give him a max deal. He's coming off of an injury anyways. You get Karis LeVert, who has been pretty inconsistent over the last year or so, but is still a solid player that can put the ball in the bucket and a decent defender on the perimeter. Lauri Markkanen is a decent floor spacer and showed a lot of promise defensively with the Cavs. And if that doesn't suit you, I would just ask for Okoro in the trade, and I think the Cavs would be more than happy to give him up, and then combined with the 2 future first-round picks, I think that's a great deal for both sides. Now, I'm not saying that these are the only teams that could trade for Donovan Mitchell, but I just think that these are the teams that are going to benefit the most from getting D-Mitch in a transaction. And as I look at the Jazz situation, I just don't see the gain of keeping Donovan Mitchell and trying to build around him. You've lost Rudy Gobert, and honestly, their defense is about to tank off of a cliff without him. And hey, maybe Jared Vanderbilt can save it, but if Gobert couldn't, then I don't think he has a chance in hell. It was a nice run, Utah, but it's time to trade Donovan Mitchell. But before I wrap up this video, make sure you guys go and check out my second channel. I just dropped a video about the trade destinations for Kevin Durant. I talked about 6 of those destinations, and I gave reasons why or why shouldn't both teams do it. Make sure you go and check it out. I had a real fun time making that video. This is your boy Young Mustard signing out. You guys stay safe and have a blessed day. Peace.